Okay, we'll now call to order the meeting of Watsonville Community Hospital Board of Directors for Wednesday, March 25th at 5:52 p.m. Rosie, whenever you have an opportunity, please give us a roll call.
Yes. Director Valley?
Here.
Director here. Director Gallagher?
Here.
Director Pimentel?
Here.
Chinese.
Here. There's nothing to report from tonight's closed session, so I'll move us on to any agenda modifications for consideration from staff. Okay, seeing none, I'll go now to public comment on matters not on tonight's agenda. And I will start online. Anybody online wishing to speak on items not on tonight's agenda?
No hands online.
Okay, see no hands raised, I'll now go in person. Anyone wishing to speak on an item not on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, I will close down the public comment and bring it to our board members for any comments from our board members. Councilman board member.
I'd like to welcome our newest board member. While we miss Dr. Cotton, we welcome Emily Valley, who's been an incredible member of our community. And I trust will be an asset to our board. Thank you.
An honor to be here.
Thank you, Director Pimentel. Any other comments from our board members?
I just wanted to say one thing. I'm really pleased and I want to, it's for the district board meeting, but since some people don't stay for that long, which I don't fault them for that. I want to thank the administration for working with Noel on the district board resolution prohibiting the use of non-public district-owned facilities for civil immigration enforcement activities. I'm really pleased to see that we're moving forward with the county and other cities to ensure the safety of our employees and our patients here, and keeping that in mind with that. So that will be discussed at the next one, at the next district meeting later tonight.
Okay, any other, thank you. Any other questions? Any other comments from the board before we move on to the consent? I do just want to, I know this is National Public Health Week is on April 6th through the 12th. And I just wanted to take a moment here to thank our staff at Watsonville Community Hospital for all the work that you do. This will be, I believe, the last board meeting that we have before National Public Health Week. And I just want to thank all of our staff that continue to serve the public, that continue to show up every single day and provide great healthcare to our community. And the fact that you continue to show up and that you continue to provide great care, I take great pride in. And I know that the last year has been very difficult and it continues to be very difficult. And I want to acknowledge that and also thank you for that, for continuing to show up and continue to care for our community. Okay. I'll move us now to the consent calendar. We have, I believe, 3 items on the consent calendar tonight. We have a minutes approval for our February 25th, 2026 meeting, our policies summary approval for March 2026. And we also have an item on consent, the Potter Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation Board Resolution prohibiting the use of non-public district-owned facilities for civil immigration enforcement activities. And this is a resolution to pass a resolution prohibiting the use of Potter Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation non-public district-owned facilities for civil immigration enforcement activities. Any questions from the board on either of these 3 items before I go into public comment on these? No questions. I do have some questions, but I'll save it for the healthcare district agenda. If there's no other questions, then I will open up to public comment on the consent calendar. Seeing none, I'll now entertain public comment for items 1, 2, and 3 on the consent calendar. Anyone online wishing to speak on either of these items, please raise your hand.
No hands online.
Okay, seeing none, I will turn to our folks here in person. Anyone wishing to speak on these items? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment for the consent calendar and I will bring it back for an appropriate motion and further discussion.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Thank you, Director Lizelle and Creel, on the roll on this item, Director Ballard. Thank you. Director Creel,
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yes.
Director Lizelle.
Yes.
And Chair Needham.
Yes. Okay, so now we'll move on to item number 4. This is the Medical Executive Committee's report approval for March 2026. This is a report that we received in closed session. The recommendation before us is to pass a motion approving the Medical Executive Committee's report for March 2026. Any questions from the board to staff about this item? Okay, seeing none, I do have to take public comment on this item, so I will open up to public comment for the folks joining us online. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please raise your hand.
No hands on line.
Okay, anyone in person wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment and I'll bring it back to the board for a motion. Item number 4. Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Thank you, Directors Gallagher and Creel, I'll take roll on this item, Director Ballard. Director Creel.
Yes.
Director Gallagher.
Yeah.
Director Lizelle.
Yes.
And Chair Needham.
Yes. Okay, that'll bring us to item number 5. It's our leadership report. And Steve and team, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna let Chief Nurse Trina start us. And I'll go after her.
So the first thing I was going to talk about is our emergency room got their new 17 brand new monitors, which will enhance patient care as a lot of our equipment has come to end of life. And so we now have 17 brand new functioning monitors in all of the patient care areas in the ED. They also, one of the highlights of these monitors, also the vital signs are integrated into the EMR. So that allows the nursing staff more time to be at the bedside, taking care of the patients instead of at their computers. So that is a very welcomed advantage of these monitors. And we've got some pictures of our ED staff there with the training for our go live. So that is what, also with the NEHON coding monitors, not for emergency rooms specifically, but on telemetry, we also got 16 new telemetry boxes. And that also will improve patient care 2 ways. One, on the physical box itself, the nurse is able to see the cardiac rhythm that the patient is in, where before we had no visual at the bedside. So now they have that visual. Also, as the patient is transported down to, radiology for a procedure, all of those vital signs also are continued to be recorded. And so that also will flow in. So that's a big enhancement as well. Let's see. The other thing I wanted to mention with the emergency room is we've had a lot of strong letters of recognition for the emergency room that have been written and sent to us. Recently, we had a former mayor of Watsonville wrote a letter to share her recent experience in the emergency room. We have received written permission from her, so I can use her name. Ms. Garcia, she served our community for many decades as a council member, a mayor, and a neighbor. And she was just, thrilled after she came to our emergency room and the care that she received. She said how scared and how much in pain she was when she visited our emergency room. She recognized all of the ED techs, the nursing staff, and the physicians. She specifically mentioned RN Spencer and wanted to thank him for his humor. She said that, you know, he provided that to her in the exact moment that she needed it. So, thank you to Spencer. Also, she mentioned Dr. Ferguson and Dr. Allen. She described them as being detailed and kind. And, again, this just really goes out to show that, you know, staff are doing a wonderful job, as well as I'd like to highlight Kirsten and Dr. Claypool for their leadership. We all know it starts at the top and kind of goes down, and they have been working in tandem with one another to improve their work culture as well as nursing practice, and they've done a tremendous job. So thank you very much. And not only that, but thank you to all the staff. There's been a lot of changes and they've been flexible. They've been happy with those changes as well. And the charge nurses have been very engaged, staff's all engaged. And so I'm really looking forward to all the improvements that we'll accomplish this year. So thank you. All right, next thing is Mobility Champion. It's a new program that started this year, and this program is to recognize staff that go above and beyond, really encouraging our patients to get out of bed. We know very much that mobility enhances recovery. It reduces patients' chances of developing pneumonia, DVT, improves their overall cognition and well-being. So the month of January, Maria Gonzalez is one of our nurses on Med-Surg who received the first award. In February, Andrea, one of our patient care partners on Med-Surg, received the award for February. This month, it's still a secret. The recipient is pending, so that should be announced shortly. The other thing I wanted to mention was our 20-year employee recognition. So this is going to be hosted by the Service League of Watsonville Community Hospital. They have sent out 147 notices to staff that have 20 years or more of service. So that in and of itself, I think, speaks volumes of our culture and our staff here at Watsonville. This is going to be hosted on April 8th, and they're going to be providing certificates, cake and snacks, and just celebrate all those employees with such long tenure here. So please come out and join us. The last but not least is Delirium Day celebration that we had on March 11th. Special thank you to Dr. Angel. He provided a presentation for anybody who wanted to come join on Delirium Day about delirium and the importance of it. It was a 2-hour class that he provided with CEs for nursing staff. So that was super awesome as well. Cecilia also arranged to have cake and ice cream out there and snacks. And there were also a lot of games, trivia and so forth surrounding delirium and the treatment for it. And it was a really fun day and enjoyed by everyone. So thank you for that. And that is all I have.
Yeah.
You're up.
All right. So a lot of the things that we're able to do that are great, and I'll build off of what Katrina was talking about, particularly with the new ED and telemetry monitors, is because of partnership and support that we have from our community. So the Nihon Koden new monitors for the emergency department and telemetry are because we have a pretty significant grant from the Central California Alliance for Health that is providing funds for those new monitors. We also have, and that's because we're getting those grants because we have a wonderful 2-person philanthropy department, June and Lisa, who run the foundation, that are able to apply for those grants and keep us moving on those grants. And another one is the operating rooms. So as we all know, the operating rooms are, a key clinical engine and economic engine for all hospitals, making sure that we can take care of patients in the right way. And our foundation has been able to raise over $600,000 so that we can start working on refurbishing 2 of our 4 operating rooms, which that process is beginning now and will continue throughout this year to upgrade and refurbish those operating rooms, modernize some of the equipment we have on our agenda later today, approval for some of that equipment specifically. But the project will also include some things that Measure N can pay for, like permanently replacing the flooring and permanently replacing the lights in the operating room. We'll work on the cabinetry and the walls and get new doors for the operating rooms because they get banged into many times a day by gurneys and surgical tables. So really excited to be able to do that, and that will help us welcome back many of our community surgeons who have been kind of asking when we were going to get some new equipment, because we've got some equipment that's a little bit on the older side. So we're really excited about all of that and about the support that we have from our community to help us do that. The other great example of community support obviously is Measure N that was passed in 2024. So those Measure N dollars are still at work. The imaging project upgrades are moving forward. So the fluoroscopy room and the new CT scanner should be here and online in about the mid to late May timeframe. And the brand new MRI machine should be here and online in the mid to late June timeframe. So we're moving forward in those. Really excited about those. In the meantime, some of the things that patients probably won't see are things like HVAC improvements that are currently underway, as well as other things in the engineering department, boilers, cooling towers, things like that that are really, really important, but most people never see. And we've got great opportunities to be able to replace and rebuild a lot of that stuff, thanks to Measure N. On the couple other items that are finance related, I won't give away most of the finance report that Julie's going to do, but we are continuing to work on short-term financing. As you know, we've had some significant dollars that are delayed as a result of the hospital fee program or QAF program 9 not being approved yet by CMS and the federal government. So we're continuing to talk with our local counties that we support and our state legislators about just that short-term financing and helping backfill some of that while we wait for that delayed approval to come. We are hearing optimism from the California Hospitals Association that Program 9, QAF Program 9 should get approved in late June. We're also hearing that QAF 10, so we're in Program 8 right now. Program 9 is the one that's been delayed, but Program 10 is actually on schedule. So that one's also being submitted by the state to the federal government this month. And so, as a best case scenario, we could actually get 2 of the programs approved in relatively quick succession, which could have them actually overlapping, which will help eventually backfill some of those dollars that we were delayed over the last year. So we're just continuing to keep an eye, very close eye on that with our lobbying advocacy groups. And then the last verbal report I have, last month, Michelle Mazzaros, our quality director, reported on our CMS star rating, and that we've been at 1 star. As I asked her to look back, the hospital's been at 1 star, the CMS overall rating since 2021. So 2021 through 2025 have been a 1 star, and very shortly after she presented that, we got our 2026 number, and we are at 2 stars. So we kind of talked about how this would be kind of a lagging indicator from Leapfrog. Leapfrog, we were able to go from a D to a B to a C. Those data are a little bit more real time closer to real time than the CMS star ratings are. The CMS star ratings tend to be from data that was about patients that were here like 2 years ago. So we're looking at the 2026 numbers going up from 25, probably because patient data from 23, 24 was better than in prior years. So we got back from 1 to 2 stars, and we'll continue to work on those action plans to get to 3, 4, and eventually 5. But kudos to the team for all that really great work, because all of that is very much a team effort. And we're happy to take questions.
Any questions for staff from the board?
I do. Trina or Steve, any thought about the monitors for ICU? Is that part of the plan?
Yeah, they're next.
Okay.
They're next.
Do you have a time frame?
I don't have.
We don't at this point. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Couple questions on I love the recognition program and can't wait to find out who marches. But it will be patient. You mentioned the upcoming date, April 8th. What time do you have the time and location?
1:30 to 3:30. Okay, thank you.
In the courtyard.
In the courtyard.
And then the emergency room, we received an update a couple months back about part of measuring the big headway things were imaging, property acquisition, and emergency room.
Yep.
2 of those 3 are on their way, purchase the land, fantastic. Imaging is so close.
Yep.
Emergency room, can you report out on where we're at in the process of the design
Yeah.
or expansion of our new emergency?
Yeah, so the next phase that we're just about to embark on, and we just met with, you'll remember Dawn Bullwinkle, who was who's helping us with some of our learning how to be a healthcare district when we first got up and running. We met with her just earlier this week to learn more about the RFP process, because we are about to embark on an RFP for a construction manager for the emergency department project, because it is far and away the largest project that we certainly have done in our 3 years as a district, but probably in quite a while since this hospital was in this location. To do a $20 or $30 million, we don't know yet, right? What the price tag is going to be, but it's a pretty huge undertaking, and certainly the biggest renovation that this site hospital has had. So we're going to do an RFP for a construction manager to help us oversee that project, help us oversee the next phase of design, which is going to get into much more detail about where things go, and more so than the higher level overview that you got before.
Yeah.
And when we have more on that, we'll certainly bring that back and keep the board up to date on where that's at. But that RFP process to find a construction manager will take a few months, take a couple months.
Thank you.
I had a comment. Recent conversation with Dr. Claypool about the ER design, and one of the questions was nursing input, and he said, "Oh, there's been tons of nursing input." I checked with the folks I know who knew. Everybody says we haven't seen anything. A thought came to put the design on the wall in the lounge with a clipboard below for comments, so that it really is in people. And I think it needs to be early in the process before the footprint gets set, because people who actually use it know how to make it work. Thanks.
Noted.
Any other questions before I open it up for public comment? Okay, anyone wishing to speak on this report online, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none, I will move on to folks here with us. Anyone wishing to speak on this report here? Okay, seeing no comments, I'll bring it back to the board, and we don't require a motion, so I'm going to move us on to item number 6 now. It's the Chief Financial Officer Monthly Finance Report or update. Julie, whenever you're ready.
All right, well, Steve saved that I could give the good news about the monthly finances. As you can see, in the month of February, we actually had a favorable bottom line. We made almost $250,000 in income. I think one of the nicest things that our financials have shown me in the first 2 months is that our net operating revenue is a lot closer to budget. That was a significant gap that we had in 2025 from different things that we had planned to do in 25 that did not materialize. And so we were very conservative as we budgeted volumes and initiatives going into 2026. And at least through the first 2 months, I can see that it's paid off and that our net revenue is much more in line with what we were kind of anticipating. And you'll see that as well when I show you the volume slides. From an expense perspective, things, most of the things were a bit favorable to budget. Overall, we're about $865,000 favorable to budget. And our one unfavorable area, which is in insurance, is actually related to recording a transaction that covers multiple months and happens to hit in the month of February, catching up on some recording that could have been done in prior months. Next slide. So from a year-to-date basis, if you remember last month, we had a small is a relative number in comparison to 25 months where we had large losses for the month. But this month's favorable results actually gave us a positive year-to-date income of $91,000. And again, favorable to the year-to-date budget by about $687,000. Next slide. The monthly statistics, we had a pretty strong month in terms of volume. So we were about 49 admissions greater than we had planned for. Our length of stay was slightly below what we had budgeted, but we still averaged about 2 more patients per day than we had planned on. Case mix is down a bit from what we budgeted, so not quite as acute as what we had planned for, but relatively close. Deliveries were below budget, but right within the kind of median range of where we tend to run. And every year we see a little bit of fluctuation, but overall this is pretty standard. We were up a bit in inpatient surgeries, down a bit in outpatient surgeries, fairly close to budget. And you can see that we did 90 ER, an average of 90 ER visits a day, and we're kind of right at budget there. I think the biggest gap we have is in the non-emergency room outpatient visits, and there's a few things that contribute to that. Certainly, we have been down in some of our various radiology procedures. Up until the middle of February, we didn't have any MRI procedures, and then we finally received the approval to open the MRI trailer and start doing procedures there. We've also been down in our rehab visits. We have tightened up the hours that we're open to be as efficient as we can with rehab visits. And we have not been doing outpatient HBO. And so those are some of the main contributors to that larger volume, or larger variance that you see on the other side. Next slide. It's pretty much the same story. The variance numbers are almost the same when you compare year-to-date to month-to-date. So our year-to-date census, we're up about a patient a day. So that has been favorable. And we've actually seen even a little bit better than that in March. It's been a pretty busy month in March. Next slide. This is the one slide that tries to kind of normalize things by showing you variances on a case mix adjusted discharge, so that it takes into account both inpatient and outpatient volumes as well as the acuity of our inpatients. And it tells pretty much the same story, that from a net operating revenue, we're a little behind budget, just percentage behind budget. Most of our expenses were favorable to budget, and the only one where we weren't favorable is that insurance line that had the unusual activity in it. Slide. Nothing really more to say here about the year-to-date. Probably the one thing I will call out here is because we had budgeted for Block 9 and it has not yet been approved, we do not post any transactions related to Block 9, so we don't post any receipts coming or planned, and we don't post the expenses that go into obtaining those dollars until we have an approved program. So that does play into the year-to-date budget. Next slide. Quick look at the volumes. The good news here, you can see the increasing trend in our admissions. We've had 4 months in a row now where we've seen increased volumes. Our length of stay has been pretty steady in the 3.1 to 3.5 range. And where we've had some lower volumes at the end of last year in the ICU. Here, the month of February was a pretty busy month for the ICU, averaging 1.6 patients a day, but having 17 admissions to the ICU. Here's the delivery, so you can see where the 65 deliveries is kind of middle of the pack where we typically run. We had 15 NICU admissions this month, so one of our busier months in the NICU, and we're seeing about 6 patients a day in this area. From an ER perspective, this is another area where we had really seen some drop off of volumes towards the middle of last year and into the fall, and it's picked up, and the last 5-6 months is kind of been an increasing trend. This was also a month where the number of ED visits that converted to an inpatient admission was higher than what we've seen. At the end of last year, we were averaging about 6 to 6.5%, and this month we had 7.5% of our ED visits turn into an admission. Next slide. Here's the outpatient visits, and I pretty much already commented. They've been down for the last 4 months, and primarily that's probably the MRI and the HBO, and then some of the kind of tightening of hours and stuff in the rehab area. Slide. Looking at the volume of surgical cases by specialty, pretty much the top 3 are always our top 3. So that's your GI cases, your OB/GYN cases, and general surgery. So cases in total were up for the month and pretty much in the same proportions. Next slide. On the outpatient side, sometimes we have one that'll sneak in for a month and then not be a top case, but these top 4 specialties are always there. So podiatry, ortho, OB/GYN, and general surgery. We were down a bit here, and most of that was in the general surgery area this month. And we did 22 robot assisted cases. So that's one of our higher months in terms of the robot usage. Next slide. Inpatient payer mix. This month, we were able to rebound in the commercial. Last month, our commercial admissions was down. It was one of our lower months, and this month it rebounded to just under 21% commercial admissions. Our alliance, which is the gold section there, pretty stable at about the 40% range. And we were down a little bit, just under 28% for Medicare patients. Outpatient. As I say every month, I think outpatient is consistent as the day is long. It always seems to be about the same. We were at a slight dip on the commercial side, and most of that was made up with alliance patients, but a pretty solid month and fairly consistent. With that, I'm open to questions.
Any questions for Julie on this report?
A couple questions, Julie. Thank you as always for the detailed report. We went through this extensive yesterday in the finance committee. I wanted to ask, didn't ask, with our recent, in the last year, investments in coastal health and expansion and bringing in more providers to our district healthcare clinic, might that be, is there any direct correlation with those expansion where we're starting to see more inpatient admissions in commercial? Is there any nexus that or how might we track, investments in coastal health? Because we knew it was a net cost investment, but we expected overall with the system that there be benefit in having more patients coming into our clinic, if you will.
I think from an overall perspective, not at the level of visit count, but just at the level of how is the Coastal Health Partners doing. I think that there's improved financial performance there. I think that we would need to work closely with Lupe to find that nexus and really try to dig into what has improved in referral patterns. Last year we had a period where we lost some physicians and had some drop off in volume. Now we've replaced those physicians and they're in their kind of early stage ramp up, but they seem very invested in it, and I think they will pick up quickly. When we budgeted this year, just in conversations with Lupe, we were hesitant to over promise volume. We really wanted to give it a good pathway. And so I think at this point, we would need to gather some data from Lupe and try to understand what she's seeing.
Thank you. And on ER conversion, is there anything we can attribute to the last several months an increase? Is it severity of illness, or is there anything programmatically, maybe it's the training question or operation, is there anything that we're doing differently where we're seeing a higher conversion rate in ER?
I don't know if it'd be anything that we're doing differently, although I'll let Trina jump in if she sees something there. I think it has been a more acute season. There's been a lot of illness in the community and
Correct, increased respiratory illness, we've seen a lot of that, so that's one thing. The other thing is, I think there could be a little bit of margin in the fact that our MRI trailer's been functional and we've been able to keep some patients versus transferring.
Thank you. Seems like we talk about this a lot. Clock 9 and clock 10. We're going to be tracking on that soon, I guess. Clock 9 had a order of magnitude of $16.5 million value below what we had budgeted, but just stating the obvious, it's so unfortunate that something that should have been approved a year ago or was submitted a year ago, and we would have expected approval June, July of 2025, still waiting for approval. That's cash that we don't have access to. Well, I appreciate that our cash balance went up to about $5 million this month. I mean, we should be having a carrying balance of $40 million a month at the floor. So it just, I will continue to echo the disappointment that it's within our entire federal government system where now we have administrators who are holding up on the approval within Medicare that's leading hospitals across the country level in California and acutely impacting us. And to the point where we're having this redivert our energy going to our partners and looking for a short-term bridge loan fund, which is, our energy should be elsewhere. So it's just, it's a system that's so flawed right now. And I'm speaking from a political, from an angry, and then from just cash flow management. It's so frustrating that we're having to bear the brunt of that. And I know your presentations are staying very calm, so I appreciate, the demeanor and the candor in which you're providing all of our payments on a basis. It's just so frustrating to see how much of our time now is being spent just going to our partners and stakeholders and not talking about investment in care, or quality care. It's, bridge loan finance. It's commentary there.
Any other questions?
No, I'll take a break. Thank you.
I'll come back to you. Any other questions? No? I do have some, Joe?
No.
Okay. I do have a couple questions, and it's on the second month in a row that we've seen 7% a conversion rate from our ER to inpatient, care, and do we have a sense of what the payer mix is of that 7%, people who have been admitted in? I don't know if that's something that we track or can easily pull of the patients who are seeing that care. I'm just wondering if there's, any of those patients or a majority of those patients or whatever percentage of those patients who are coming into our ER and that are responsible for that small, be it bump in admissions, are, vulnerable members of our community that have been putting off care because of potential ICE immigration fears or any of those things within our community. I see that, and then I look at I think our uninsured patient percentage was down to 0.4% this last month, and these things, kind of set off trends, I think, and my background is in journalism, so, it takes 3 to be a trend, so maybe next month or March, if we see the same thing, an increase, I'm wondering what we can trace that back to or how we measure that.
My background's in statistics.
Yeah.
7 is a trend. That's great. So I would say that the numbers are really just kind of in line with what they typically are. They're running sort of in a range.
Mhm.
And I would say that a vast majority of our inpatient admissions come through the emergency department. So if you want to know the emergency department and the admission payer mix, it's probably going to be pretty close to
To
what
our
the inpatient payer mix is on that inpatient payer mix slide.
Mhm.
We can certainly drill into it more and look specifically at those ED patients.
Yeah, we have that.
But I don't think we've seen, and we are looking forward to looking more at what is that uninsured rate gonna look like
Mhm.
as we move forward into more times where patients have to recertify their Medi-Cal
Right.
and next year have to certify that they're working to stay in Medi-Cal and things like that. We're definitely gonna be watching that.
Yeah.
That bar and seeing how much it increases, because the Alliance has already told us how much they think it's gonna increase, and it's quite a bit. But we're not seeing it yet.
Yeah, there is, a bit of a timeline. All of our self-pay patients are referred to our eligibility vendor who tries to see if they are eligible for any type of program. Now, there sometimes is a non-response rate
Sure.
that they may run into. We haven't seen any significant changes, but we have this conversation with them every month, looking for any kind of intelligence around, is the non-response rate increasing? Are people falling off and not being eligible that were previously eligible? So as soon as they start to see some data and share it with us, we would certainly share that, but there hasn't been any significant change yet.
That's great to hear. I know that, Joan, I'll let you ask your question right now. The January 1st deadline, obviously for people with unsatisfactory documentation status that came down from the state budget. I'm worried about the impact that that's going to have both on the hospital and on the community. And so it's good to see that this isn't at least yet a growing trend, and what sort of impact it's going to have on the hospital and people seeking care. Continuing to come into the hospital and continue to get the care that they need, knowing that they're not able to, that they don't have health insurance and aren't able to afford that care. That's both from a hospital perspective and a community perspective, it concerns me. But Joe?
Yeah, it's a comment to the question. Put my doc hat on. Seasonally, somebody comes in with a cough in July, it's not a big deal if they come in late January. Pretty good chance they have pneumonia. So there's a big seasonality to what upper respiratory things do. People come much sicker, even though the temperatures are crazy.
Right,
All
yeah.
of that kind of stuff. The other is historically before, when I knew the numbers for admission kind of out of the year, it was 14% or 15%. Those were standard year after year after year. And I think Steve and I had that, that's really what you would guess. And my question, and Julie said they're trying to figure out a way to look at this. Is it that a lot of people with very mild illnesses are coming, or is it really the denominator that the ER docs are doing a great job of keeping people out of the hospital and managing things as outpatients, which can be done.
It could be also the uninsured rate, you know, throughout the county has dropped significantly, right?
Got it.
Over the last few decades. And so that's something else. People are accessing primary care who previously haven't had primary care before. So, okay, any other questions?
I do want to have a comment. Rosie, or whoever, go back one slide on our outpatient, and it's just something we talked a little bit about in the finances. You see that kind of our second to the top is our commercial, and that's been shrinking, and the downside to that is we get pennies on the dollar in our Medicare rates. And so as our commercial insurance on outpatient shrinks, that puts more of a strain on our bottom line. And I'd say despite that, despite OP9 delays and net revenue being here, we still have a month of 295,000. We're hoping after 7 months, 7 is the trend. I would agree with that statement. That we see a continued structural recovery in our net results, but it's just 1 month. But again, despite that 1 month, we didn't have OP9 and we saw a reduction in commercial and outpayer. So I think those are two things to hope to attach to that. When OP9 is here, that will improve our bottom line. And if we get the commercial figure on outpatient, that's less reliant on the pennies on the dollar reimbursement for Medi-Cal.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, I do want to open up the public comment on this, so, I'll go out, first online, Rosie, if you could. Anyone wishing to speak on this item online, please, raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands raised, anyone wishing to speak on this item here with us? Okay, seeing no hands raised, I will close on the public comment and I'll move us on to item number 7 if there's no closing comments from the board. Okay, seeing none, I'll move on to item number 7. This is a surgical department tower purchase. The recommendation before us is to pass a motion approving the improvements of 2 Watsonville Community Hospital operating rooms and improved signing authority for Watsonville Community Hospital Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, or Executive Delegate for the purchase of Stryker laparoscopic towers to replace existing aging equipment with more modern, higher functioning equipment. Trina, whenever you're ready.
This one's you. Tell them why it's so great.
So, the new towers, just to highlight a couple things. The new towers have a 32-inch screen versus a 26-inch screen from the previous towers that we currently are using. They also use 4K resolution, which is, you know, the pixel density is 4 times that of a full HD. So it's offering a much sharper detailed image for the surgeon when they're in there performing those surgeries. The newer one also provides insufflation capability that has a heated, humidified CO2 with active smoke evacuation, which puts us in line with AORN standards and also regulatory standards that will be coming through in 2027, that will be a requirement. So that is good. Also, there are multiple modes for installation capability, including advanced modes of advanced high flow, bariatric, pediatric. So that also definitely increases capabilities. One of the biggest thing also is there's advanced imaging. It's called SPY Firefly or ICG with the new towers. That allows for biliary mapping with, you know, like our lap pulleys, lymphatic mapping, tissue perfusion that they can see when they're doing colectomies. It also helps them identify cancer for lung and ovarian. And advanced imaging also helps identify bladder cancer. So it's much more detailed images that allow these surgeons to be able to look using those cameras with the naked eye, you know, compared to the imaging that we have now. So definitely an improvement for our patients, but also for the surgeons performing the procedures to be more accurate.
And again, this purchase is made possible by June, who's in the room, and our foundation and our wonderful donors, both institutional donors and individual donors in the community, coming together for this OR refurbishment campaign.
Very nice. Anything else? Questions from the board about this? Please.
Two questions. Life of the tower, how long do we expect these to last typically, and how old were the old towers? And then two, you could just maybe focus on the forward phase. I'm afraid we're gonna get, that'll be the 148th awardee for the 20-year anniversary recognition. Two, was there a second place contender? What got us to choose Stryker?
I think one of the biggest things that we decided to go with Stryker is the familiarity of the surgeons that are already using the towers. So less, chance of error whenever there's, education that's involved in using a new product. And also by choice. We had all the key stakeholders were involved in making that decision. So that was one of the biggest things. Also, Stryker has a very strong product and is, it's very well known and reliable. So that's a big decision.
Really focus on operational quality, patient care, usability, not just, it was the cheapest we found. So I love that response.
The life of the towers, did you get?
I believe that's around 5 years.
5 years. And then the life of the previous tower? All that.
Those are 20-year cycle.
We'll just say it.
Get back to you on that.
Previous owners or two owners? Yeah. Any other questions about this item? I do have a couple questions. I'm not in the medical field, so some of the stuff that you're talking about just went right over my head, Trina. What is our community going to be able to access in terms of their healthcare as a result of this state-of-the-art equipment that they're not able to access now or have not been able to?
So I think it's the advanced imaging that would allow patients to have some different surgeries here at our hospital that they may have had to go elsewhere. In terms of like the biliary mapping, looking at the lymphatic system for sentinel nodes, biopsy with, cancer patients that need to have. They inject like a dye and it can show blood flow, and that's not an option that the current towers that we're using. So I think it will allow different surgeries than what we're able to provide now. So it would improve access.
And the amount of dollars invested into this for the purchase, I don't think we've said it publicly, but it's in the report. It says not to exceed $525,000 capital expenses for equipment. What sort of X return are we expecting on this in terms of revenue generation for the hospital and being able to have this tool in there for our patients and our physicians to continue to, as you said, come back to the hospital and do more surgeries? What sort of can we expect from something like this, an investment like this from our community?
Yeah, well, when Trina answered the question, she answered it from a patient care standpoint, not from a financial standpoint. I think that's the answer to that question too, is we didn't do a financial ROI on this purchase. We just know that this is really important. We could probably do that. We could look at our surgical cases and what each additional surgical case brings in from a additional net margin. And we can bring that back to you, but unless Julie can do the math in her head. We didn't do that when we decided which tower to go with, or to know that we needed to improve our operating room capabilities. We know we need good operating room capabilities, and we knew that we were dealing with old equipment, and our surgeons have been telling us for years that we've been dealing with old equipment in there, so. Yeah, so we didn't do, this isn't like a new service where we're like, should we do this or not? And we make a financial decision based on it. This was like, we gotta upgrade this equipment. It's old and it's gonna take care of patients better when we get the new stuff, so sorry to, I don't know, try to.
No, just, I think just
push
by,
off your question.
I'd love to see, if we can project that forward just by having stable equipment within the OR rooms. I think that's, something we struggled with last year, and just to be able to say that. And then to have it as I know doctors want to come back, but to having it as a recruitment tactic, right? To bring in more physicians to come in and use our OR rooms in terms of revenue generation. I think that would be great.
Absolutely.
So that's,
Yeah, and Trina and I were just meeting earlier today with our new surgical services director, who knows a lot of the local surgeons because she's local, and she's like, I'm going and telling them all about our new equipment, and going, and like, she and I are gonna go out to offices and talk to them and bring them back, because there have been surgeons who used us in the past, may have stopped for various reasons, might have been equipment related, might have been anesthesia related, might have been something else. But I think they'd like to take care of their Pajaro patients here in our hospital. And so we need to bring them back. And this is a good way to do that.
of course.
It would have been harder to do that with still having the old equipment.
And I can do a little bit of
Yeah,
math.
math,
in my head.
That's why I feel about it.
Yeah, so, I'm gonna say that probably 5 cases a month on average, so 60 cases in a year would pay for that equipment.
It's great.
Can you show us?
Thank you. The other, go
I
ahead.
mean, the one comment I would make, it sounds like this can do upper end sophisticated stuff, but this equipment was really for the day-to-day bread and butter.
Yeah.
It does all that remarkably well. So
Yes.
this is the kind of thing that I know some of the surgeons who just used to shake their head at the old equipment.
Right.
Okay, for sure.
And then the key stakeholders in terms of determining why this machine and why not another machine. What did that look like in terms of bringing in staff input, leadership input, before you were making the purchase and bringing this before the board?
I think it was attendance at department meetings, and also, conversations between the director and the physicians. There were also
Did we have demos?
No.
Another thing, and I just
Sorry.
listed. That's okay.
It's okay, we can
I
come
don't
back.
remember.
Yeah, we'll come back. I do wanna, and we do need to, get public comment on this. Is there any other questions before I go? On public comment? Okay. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, online, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing no hands raised, anyone in person wishing to speak on this item? See one person.
Nice and cool. I like
A little too full.
Too cold?
Over here, I don't know, underneath the vent or something.
Good evening, members of the chair and yes, and members of the board. This is exciting for the foundation. It's just a reflection of how our community and our local foundations are really committed to this hospital. As this came to be and conversations were had with Steve and Trina and the team and the rest of the team, we felt this was such a valuable asset. And our donors, community partners also feel, what can we do to contribute, and that gives back to the community, takes care of our patients. And we felt, okay, this is a great area to invest in. The funding, all of it comes from foundations, private donors, individual donors. And so I'm very, very proud to get this project off the ground. Thank you to the great leadership and partnership. I think overall, it just highlights how we can stretch the dollars and really keep focus. Focus is our patients, their well-being, our physicians and our staff, and ensure that all those components give a positive result. So thank you for your partnership.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, seeing no other public comments, I'll bring it back to the board for additional discussion and then also a appropriate motion if there is one.
I'll move approval and just acknowledge the appreciation for staff of junior. Thank you to this community and our donors who brought this forward, and the ROA is, it begins on day one because we didn't have to put out hospital cash for it. So this June, thank you to your team and all the fundraising, the donors. I know you probably already communicated and expressed, how their dollars at work. So just thank you for that.
Second, thank you.
Thank you, Director Gallagher, I'll take roll on this item. Director Roberts? Director Creel?
Yes.
Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Director Spurthal?
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Before we move on, I just also want to thank June, just for all your work in getting this. And I know we can't have donors in the operating room while the first operation goes on or whatever, but we will find a way to thank the donors and the funders for making this investment into the hospital. So thank you for your work on this. Okay, I'll move us on now to item number 8. This is the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District and Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation 2025 Consolidated Audit Report. The recommendation before the board is to pass a motion approving the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District and the Pajaro Valley Healthcare District Hospital Corporation Consolidated Audit Report for the period of January 1st, 2025 through December 31st, 2025. Julie, whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. Well, we have hit that time of the year again where it's time to do the annual audit of 2025. Back in February, we engaged our audit team. Gerald Tucker is on the phone, and he's going to present the findings of the audit. And so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Okay, thanks. Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Had a chance to meet with the finance committee yesterday, go over the audit in some detail and answer some questions, and that went well, and I appreciate the recommendation. And so I'll make this quick. I know these meetings drag on, and if I'll only highlight the items that need to be highlighted, and if you have any questions, certainly I'll answer that. Love to get the audit approved tonight. There are 4 things, if you remember from prior years, there's 4 things that an auditor has to report to the board. And I'm going to go over those 4 things kind of quickly here. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know or speak out or whatever. First and foremost, the district and the hospital it's a consolidated audit. Hospital is considered a component unit of the district. So when we audit the district, we have to audit the hospital as well. And we provide a consolidated financial statement for both of those entities. You receive 2 audits, basically a financial audit, which is like what any company gets, that basically is saying that the numbers are accurate, properly reported, and in accordance to generally accepted accounting principles or GAAP. There's another audit you have to do, though. It's a governmental audit, supplemental audit that focuses more on the governmental aspect. We have to do some additional testing on transactions and balances and whatnot, and give a report or give an audit opinion on that. For both opinions, both for the financial and for the governmental audits, you had clean opinions, an unmodified opinion. So that's what you want. That means that the numbers are accurate, they're in accordance with GAAP, and there's no issues or problems there. There is one thing I wanted to bring to your attention. This year we have a going concern, not a qualification, but an emphasis of matter, it's called. And so if you remember, the going concern is that basically if certain things don't change, or if results don't get better, there's a chance that the entity would not be able to remain in business for the next full 12 months. And so that's in there. It's in the report. It's an emphasis matter in the actual audit opinion report. And there's a note in there with detailing that as well, and management's plans and whatnot. So you could take a look at that. So just to remind you, so when audit gives a clean opinion, it means the numbers are accurate. It may not necessarily mean the numbers are good. And the results of operations were a little bit probably down than what you had hoped for or expected. And And we'll talk about that as we go along. Number two, there were no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies identified relating to the district's internal controls, and there were no reportable findings, which is another thing you want. So basically, a clean bill of health on that. As we go through transactions and balances and all the checks and things that we look at, if we find any basically errors or omissions, then those have to be brought to the board, and there were none of those this year. There haven't been any in the past either. There were no audit adjustments. This is the third thing. No audit adjustments, but there were various late client entries. There's the board, the hospital and the district have a quick turnaround on their audit. They have requirements that are the audit needs to get out, going to be finalized, get out to lenders and whatnot, who part of the covenants with those lenders, especially on the bonds, is they want to see the audited financial statements within like 90 days or 120 days or whatever. So we get the audit started, and there's still some things that are being worked on by Julie and her staff, and so we don't hold up on the audit. We go ahead and get the audit started and get everything done, and then as they finish up items and have maybe late client entries or other entries that need to be made, we review those with them, have them booked, and and we end up with the audit getting done in a timely manner. So the late client entries, there were a number of entries, some cost report related entries, some that cleaned up some transactions on the pension and workers' comp. These are all not red flags. These are issues that usually you're waiting for additional information to come in, and the audit's already started. There was some late bills that were received, and then there were some bond entries waiting for some information from the county on the bond entries. So the total was an addition of $1 million to the bottom line for the hospital. So it all came out good. But anyway, that's the difference between what Julie would have reported to you at first as what was at the end of the year, December, and now with the audited financials report. Okay. The fourth and last item is there are no difficulties encountered with management in performing the audit, no disputes or disagreements, and we were not limited in any way on the audit. Julie, Jessica, and Grace, those are the three that we mostly work with. They do a great job of providing everything we ask for. Like I said, no limitations, and any questions we have, any concerns, they address them thoroughly. And so we appreciate that, and they did a good job. They did a lot of hard work and put a lot of time and effort in responding to us to be able to have an audit done by the end of March, which is a kind of a feather in their cap. Any questions on those four items? Anything the board wants me to explain a little bit more or whatever?
Any questions for the board?
I'd say finance committee, Dr. Cal and I reviewed the audit very closely in the finance committee.
Good. Let me just touch on a few significant things just to get into some of it's just reminding you from last year and other things that I wanted to bring to your attention. Again, it is a consolidated audit. The district and the hospital are the hospital is a component unit of the district, so they have to be reported together. If you want to see the standalone stuff, there's financial statements, supplemental financial statements in the back of the audit report that have a consolidating sheet that shows the district's financials and the hospital's financials, then the combined. And so if you're interested, they are in there. So we did that again this year, consolidated. The general obligation bonds were issued last year. Those are going now. The first scheduled payments were made, and all the compliance items have been taken care of. And what you probably noticed is district tax revenue is now being a significant amount of district tax revenue is now being recognized. The way the general obligation bonds work is the county bills them for you. They receive money in and then to the extent they pay the bonds debt obligation, that amount is considered district tax revenue to the district. And so you'll see there's like $3 million in district tax revenue this year, and that's the amount that was either accrued or actually paid out by the county. Any additional funds the county holds will sit in assets whose use is limited because they can't be used for anything else but bond related payments, and it's deferred revenue. And then as that flows through in future years on bond obligations, then that gets brought into revenue as well. That's new this year, and we look at that very closely, make sure that all the entries are made and that the bonds are accounted for properly and all the compliance things are done and no issues there. Um, you had the purchase of the hospital last year. That's all was booked last year. This year, new fixed asset was just $1.8 million in new fixed asset additional projects and things that are going on. And those we make sure those are all properly booked and done correctly. You'll have some larger things done, as you go forward. Now that you own the hospital and whatnot, there'll be upgrades and whatnot. There's some projects that were talked about. And those were always a subject a subject of an audit. We always look at those and make sure that they're booked correctly. And so those were the main issues that I wanted to touch on. I've heard you already talked about some of the issues with the IGT and the QAF timing and so on and so forth. And a lot of hospitals are struggling with that. But I'm not hopeful. I'm not. I don't. It's somewhere between hopeful and certain that will get resolved, and the funds will be coming forthcoming here in the near future. So that's a good program, and it will certainly benefit the hospital, and those funds start kind of flowing again. But anyway, any questions on any of those items there? Also, you have the draft audit. You've hopefully had a chance to kind of look through it a little bit. Any questions on the draft audit? Anything you'd like me to highlight or explain or talk about how we audited or whatever? Now's your chance. If not, I'll let you get back to your meeting and not make this night go too late.
Any questions for Gerald or for Julie? None at this moment. I'm gonna open up to public comment. I'll come back to the board if there are any questions. Anyone wishing to speak on item number 8 on tonight's agenda, please raise your hand online. Okay. Seeing none, we'll go to the public. Anyone wishing to speak on these items? Okay, seeing none, I'll close down the public comment and I will come back to the board for any additional questions and an appropriate motion as well.
I'm gonna have comments.
Sure.
No question. So I just, Gerald, I appreciate you and your firm working on our tight timelines, but more importantly, I think Julie, Jessica, and the team behind the scenes who pulling all this together, simultaneously doing all this other extraordinary work, managing cash flow on a daily basis. So it's a quality report. I think, Gerald, you hit it. We have an unqualified clean opinion, which is a statement of the quality of our staff and the quality of our numbers. And unfortunately, we have the net results that are creating a going concern. A commentary to recommend that everybody take a minute, and if you just read a couple of pages 4 and 5, it's our MD&A management discussion and analysis. There's some really good documentation of what are the triggers that have hit us and have created this situation. So I thought it was a really well done synopsis of the challenges we're facing.
I would agree. Julie and her staff do a good job of putting that together, putting some decent and useful information and some financial analysis and whatnot. And it was a tough year for the hospital, but you've got a good plan in place, and there's already some positive numbers this year. So we're also hopeful that the hospital will continue to turn things around and the volumes will increase and hospital can then continue to provide great service there in the Watsonville area.
Okay. Now would be the time for an appropriate motion or for additional discussion or questions from the board.
Move approval.
Second. Thank you, Directors Gallagher, Creel. I'll take roll on this item. Director Raleigh?
Yes.
Director Creel? Yes. Director Gallagher?
Yes.
Director Stillwell?
Yes.
And Chairman.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Gerald.
Okay, great. Julie, I'll be in touch and we'll get this wrapped up and issued. Thanks. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will adjourn the meeting of the Watsonville Community Hospital Board of Directors